so much for being here this time live on the All Access Live show with Kevin Rankin. I want to thank a couple of people as we get started here, but just want to make sure that our live stream is going out to all the destinations that it's supposed to. We have Abducted by the 80s as part of our guests today, and I want to make sure that they're getting this live stream. So let me take a look real quick, make sure that everybody here is being seen. And it is. So that was a long pause for me to be able to let you guys know that before we get just rocking in this conversation, let me just tell you guys, 5-Star Guitars has been a sponsor for me from quite early on in All Access Live. They have guitars, they have lessons, they've got repairs. They're based in Beaverton, Oregon, which has no sales tax. So if you're outside the Oregon area and you're looking for a great deal on guitars, go to www.5starguitars.com and pick up great guitar at a great deal. I also want to thank my friends at Audix Microphones for providing great audio support here. Audix Microphones are based here in just outside of Portland, Oregon, and we're very fortunate to have all sorts of great environments for musical sources here. Audix is going to do a lot of partnership with All Access Live in the future for live streams and events. And besides Audix and 5-Star Guitars, Abducted by the 80s has been a partner of All Access Live for a bit. We're streaming the Vapors page, streaming the Vapors conversation on the Abducted by the 80s site right now. So if you're watching on that location, I want you to do me a favor. Click on the link that goes to this interview and subscribe on this YouTube channel. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you're going to see a whole bunch of other interviews from artists from this era, especially. I choose to have a lot of my friends on that we've done some touring with in the past. So you can have, you'll see archives of conversations and fun hangs with Cutting Crew and Wang Chung and Animotion and A Flock of Seagulls and New Shoes and many others. So go to youtube.com/allaccesslive with Kevin Rankin. Hit the subscribe button, and then you can access all the archives, and you'll be able to do some Q&A chat with me right here with my buddies. So now that we're here, we're going to introduce my pals that we were touring with last year. They're 40 years removed from the very first international tour that they did. And so we're going to talk about the early days and what they're doing now, the 80s iconic pop band, the Vapors. Thank you guys so much for being here and being willing to go through this this round two with me.
It's all right. I think we may have lost Steve. He's frozen.
Oh, you know, we've got, Steve Smith's got half his face here. This is really good. I hope that, does he feel like his left side is this better half?
You know,
maybe, who knows?
Yeah. If his internet sort of reloads, he'll be able to jump right on.
Yeah, he'll jump back in.
Yeah. Let's see. And I'm
gonna
hey,
speak to them.
There he is. How you doing, buddy? Hey, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. So, Steve, welcome back. And let me ask you: is your left side better? Do you feel like that's your best side?
My left side.
Yeah, we just got to see half of your face there.
No, really? No. That's no. Maybe it's just a bit dark in here.
Oh yeah. Well, no. When you disappeared, I wondered if maybe you were just trying to show us the best side of your face, you know. But either way, I'm going to. It looks like the Abducted by the 80s page right now is not showing that stream, so I'm going to share it there. While I do that, I want to see if you guys can talk to me a little bit about the early formation of the band prior to turning Japanese, blowing up, and becoming an international hit. Can you tell me about how you guys met and what happened with the beginning of the band?
Steve. Okay, we all got together in early 1979. There was an early edition of the band featuring just Dave from that lineup survived. People left for varying reasons at various times. It didn't all happen in one jump. I think Ed joined first. Then about 2 months later, I joined, and maybe about a week later, Howard joined.
So was it called the Vapors early on?
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't. I mean, Vapors Mark 1 was people that were 18 years old and they had the choice between going to university or staying in the band, and they went to university.
Bad choice, man. The rock and roll.
Yeah.
In those
so I'm looking around for people to fill in the holes in my band.
You know, stylistically, did you feel like the band changed over time as people came in and out, or was it similar kind of stuff?
I mean, the first lead guitarist we had was really heavy metal and heavy rock and roll.
Really?
So, so there's lots of widdly diddly guitars going on, which
he had heavy metal tendencies.
Yeah, he
did.
Well,
there are a few tapes on YouTube and places.
Are they really? Those are the long lost demo tapes.
His name's Rob Campy.
Okay.
Unfortunately, about 5 years ago.
Oh, he did. I'm sorry. But if like having you've got a really cool cult fan base, a lot of people that just love to find those obscure early day tapes. So are there tape traders out there that are passing around those early demos with the metal stuff?
Recently,
I think it's more online.
Yeah. Recently, someone put something up on Facebook. They found like a radio sort of, crib sheet pressed up into vinyl of like an old like BBC recording or something. Yeah, there's loads of people online who are sort of, oh yeah, I've got this, recording from this gig or whatever. I think somewhere around the house we've got some demos as well on cassette tape for
it's all on cassette.
For those who still have Walkmans.
Yeah, well, I tried to make sure that I continued to buy cars that had cassette players in them for that very reason. So it's tough.
Tricky now to get a new one.
It is, yeah. But if you go back, it's funny if you take your new Audi into a shop and you say, "Hey, can you retrofit this with a cassette player and maybe an 8-track?" They're gonna look at you like, "What?" But you remember 8-tracks?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that was the formation of like portable, car music, and that was awesome.
Our first album, our first album on 8-track.
Can you really? That
I've seen a photo.
I don't know. You lost out there for a second, but I think you were saying you saw a photo of one somewhere.
Yes.
Do you like how I'm translating for Steve when he goes silent? I'm going to need you guys to do that. Whenever Steve goes silent, you have to translate for him. Do we have a deal? We've got some people in the chat. This is really cool. Jen Crossed Adolf is a huge fan of the band.
Oh, hi, Jen.
Jen, man. She's
bang a brewing glass there.
That's for you. You see that? She said, "Damn, with the banger brewing glass." Yes.
I didn't see the thread. I might have to get the thread up.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'll make sure that I ask some of these questions along the way because I think people are gonna have questions from both the Abducted by the '80s page and also the YouTube chat here. In fact, before we get to those questions, I want to ask you guys. There have been different formations of the band. Obviously, you said that it was early heavy metal, and then you developed into more of the sensibility of how would you categorize what the Vapors represent stylistically?
Good question.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was right in the middle of it. So.
I think the early stuff I would have characterized this as a new wave band. I'd have thought earlier on, but then I think we did for the second album. We really developed on from that.
You did you have influences that kind of helped change and evolve into different style then?
I think we've all had all sorts of influences from funk to like Captain Beefheart, Bowie, all sorts of things were going on and going in, and everyone was listening to different stuff, and I think it just progressed.
How you were pretty young at that point?
Yeah. Ed and Howard, like 18 or 19 years old. I think I was 21.
I just think of, the influences you would have had at that time. You talk about Bowie, last year when we were on tour, we played Dallas this time last year, I think last night.
Thomas Dolby.
Right. And Thomas Dolby did that incredible tribute to Bowie. He had,
Heroes.
He had Heroes. And I remember standing with a bunch of you guys just in tears. For people that weren't there at any of these shows, I should tell you about sort of the setting for this tour. The Lost 80s Live Tour is this great compilation of a whole bunch of bands that have had hits from the 80s that are really celebrating the vibrance and the carefree attitude that people had back then. So people kind of get transformed back to 1980, 81, 82, where they can go and wear the same outfits and sing the same songs and see the same bands that they grew up and fell in love with. And backstage, the bands are all doing the same thing. We all become friends and family, so much so that we're cutting up and telling jokes and you know, really carrying on, having a good time, playing pranks on each other. At this particular event, Thomas Dolby's out on stage and he starts talking about playing with Bowie for the Live Aid festival. And all the bands that are talking and having fun all of a sudden turn, and it was all the fun and everything turned into complete reverence for Bowie, reverence for Thomas Dolby. He did such a moving tribute to it. And the fact that he was there playing with Bowie, you know, was just a really important part of music history. And it was really cool to be part of that ensemble on stage with him doing that. And you looked out at the crowd and yeah, there were people with their phones up, but everybody that had been dancing all night just stood and watched the slideshow that Thomas put together on the wall. Yeah. And it was such a cool moment for all of us. You know, I felt like, man, I can put that up there as one of the great memories of the tour. And it had nothing to do with us playing on stage or anything else. It was just a mark in time. Yeah. How about some other moments in time that you guys really, that stand out to you guys from just last year on the tour?
For me, one of the moments that really made me laugh was when Martha climbed into the crowd at one of the shows. Do you remember? I can't remember where it was.
In Chicago.
She was halfway back.
That's right. Yeah. Well, okay. So a lot of times we tour with Berlin, right? And Terry Nunn will go out on Shoulders during Take My Breath Away, and she'll try to get towards the back and then make her way around. She's usually got a security guard, but when we play together, she's had me do it. So I've done like 4 or 5 times. I've had Terry on my back or on my shoulders. You know, it's a nice honor, and I can make all my friends jealous when we do that. But Martha was like, I'm going to go one step further. I'm pretty much just going to crowd surf. You know, she jumped into that crowd at Aragon Ballroom, I think, in Chicago. And it was towards the beginning of the tour. And I'm like, holy shit. She's got balls, man. I mean, she does have balls. She's a badass chick. She's another one that lives here in Portland with me. So, hey, Martha, if you're watching, I appreciate having my Northwest rep. We need to get her on here. We'll talk about the stage surfing and whether or not she got groped and you know, made some friends along the way. But you know, I know Michael had, like, here's one thing that you can always tell with Michael Bowes here is that this dude never stops smiling. I get grief for being a smiley drummer, right? Like when I'm not playing with a Flock of Seagulls and I'm doing other bands, some heavy rock bands are like, look, there's no smiling in heavy metal. And I'll get grief about it. You know? And I'm like, yeah, you were the smiliest drummer on tour. I felt like, man, okay, now they can make fun of him, except they can't because you have so much joy when you're playing. I felt like if I asked you what your favorite moment of the tour was, you'd come up with every single date of the tour because you had some magic moment. So it's some meal, right? Yeah. Okay. For somebody who's so thin and fit, how can you put down so much food? It's incredible, man. I try to keep up and look what happens to me. This is horrible. No,
I mean, I use the drumming as a workout. Definitely.
Yeah. Tell me about like just 1 or 2 special moments for you on tour last year.
Yeah, I mean, many special moments. The show where we had the, I think it was by the bay, I think, where we had all the yachts and things kind of, you know, applauding with their horns and things like that. That was really quite special. Yeah.
Yeah, that was Detroit, right? When they came up, right? Oh, man.
Yeah.
Aretha Franklin Amphitheater. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
God, you know, something special about that, I will just say, for me, was getting to see all those bands because it was right towards the beginning of the tour again. So we really got familiar with all the other bands' music and their stage presence and their show. And it was so fun to watch you guys every night, you know, watch just how much joy you had. I could tell that there was no place on the planet you'd rather be than that point, which I would imagine makes this really hard right now to be at home with the pandemic, knowing where you should be. Do you look back though and think, man, we had such an incredible year, at least feel gratitude for what was there, knowing that it'll come back at some point, right? We'll get it. But are you able to kind of look back and just feel that sense of gratitude for what we did have last summer?
Absolutely.
Totally. That's one of the best experiences ever.
Yeah,
man. Dave, for you?
Yeah, totally. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
I just wish it was happening now again. I mean, doing it now. So
If
it's obviously sad that we're not, but it's given us time to think and recharge our batteries and write some more stuff.
Yeah, so you have been. You've got an album coming out.
It's out. Came out in June, middle of June.
I haven't had a chance to tour it yet.
There it is right there. Oh, you know what, man? People have been talking about this record actually, and that is even more of a challenge, right? Because you put a record together, you're all set to tour, and all of a sudden some COVID pandemic comes by and kicks your ass and says, "Nice try." So a little anticlimactic, right? How long has it been since the last record?
When was it out?
No, you said
39.
Yeah.
How many?
39.
Oh my God, man. So how did you approach that record, knowing that people were really familiar with the sound that you had from like the success of Turning Japanese and seeing you guys there? Because you talked about, early on being new wave bands, and I hear.
What we hadn't realised was how many fans we had. Once we start playing the old stuff. We're filling out 500 seaters and nice little clubs. Really good feel. Writing new stuff. They've lived for 40 years with these 2 albums. We go and throw some stuff in on top of it that they don't like, then that's lost the 40 years.
That's a way to keep an audience waiting, man. Just waiting.
We were very nervous about what would be acceptable, what was a Vapors song, what would be allowed, for the Vapors to have developed a bit, at least in 40 years.
I think I could probably speak for Michael as well on this. Being like the new kid on the block, trying to sort of, not do what Ed would have done, or but also keep to that kind of feel, the same sort of influences that he had, and the same sort of stuff that worked before. I don't know. It was quite a. I'm sure, Michael, you probably
You're honoring a tradition, right? By having
I mean, I'm quite lucky in the fact that I sort of brought up 7 years old or whatever, seeing my dad's face on the back of a CD and being like, "Huh?"
Yeah, that's
listening to those records, and in all honesty, Ed is an influence on me. So I think my playing sort of is inspired by his anyway. So
that's really cool that you can pay sort of homage to his influence and still have some integrity in your own presence there. Do you feel like you've got sort of, and maybe I'm putting you in the middle of this, Michael and Dan, but when you're in a role where you're supposed to be playing parts similar to what the record was like, and that you have your own influence as well, do you get a little free reign to communicate your input, or?
I try to anyway.
Yeah.
I'm a real pedant. I think we all know when it works. I mean, if it comes up with something that works, we all say, "Yeah, great."
Yeah. If I start going into some sort of Kirk Hammett insane shredding solo thing, like I know beforehand that wouldn't work.
Right.
He'll get the death stare from me.
Oh yeah, man. I never saw the death stare the entire time of the tour. You guys were so happy and giddy. Here's my ignorance. This is silly. As we get talking, I'm loving everybody's personalities, and we're catching up. And I hadn't looked at the text thread and chat. It is blowing up, and everybody's, first of all, really mad at me for not bringing it together. The fact that I didn't realize that it had just come out in June. Jen Adolph's first one saying, "Oh my God, it was so worth the," or she said it's worth the wait. So many people here have talked about this record. Some people are actually asking, while we're waiting for album 4, any chance of releasing some previous unreleased material in the interim? That was Andy Barnes.
Well, actually, we are actually in the process of doing some recording at the moment. So keep listening out, because there's something coming. There's some material on the way.
Are they like expected to be released as singles?
No, I think we're going to do like an EP.
Okay, that's cool. 5 or 6
tracks. We've got a Christmas song that we might think about doing too.
Right on.
So we've got plenty of stuff coming up. We're after 5 months of complete inertia, we're raring to go.
Is that going to be the title of the EP? 5 months of complete inertia.
Go, yes.
Yeah. Oh, raring to go is better. Yeah, that's less depressing. Oh my gosh, this is this is really cool. I'm watching what some of these people are saying. Pete Sander says the Vapors just don't do Backstage Friendly. That's what they do great all the time. When they meet your fans on tour, that's just who they are. And that is true. I celebrated so much of that opportunity too. When we're out there and we're doing these shows, Steve and Dave, you guys know that 40 years later, for people to come out and celebrate your music and buy your merchandise and buy your records and want to celebrate the music with you and honor you for what you contributed, that's some bands, I will say, and that's very rare, but some bands take that for granted, unbelievably so. They'll charge for a meet and greet, or that
40 years ago, we didn't know anyone liked us.
There
was no immediate response to the gig. It was like 200 people in a 1,000-seater. Wow. You think, oh, nobody likes us.
Yeah. Well, it's
okay, it's taken 40 years for people to listen.
Well, part of it too, right? And we all know this, that when you get bands together from the era that have had remarkable hits, international hits, where the memories about the time that they had when that song came out are really pivotal now, right? Because people right now are looking at having had their first relationships while that song came out, right? They didn't have responsibilities of horrible, like soul crushing day jobs, or, mortgages that they couldn't afford, or, tax liabilities or any of that stuff. There was no worry about climate change or, pandemics. And so they can go back and transport themselves into that era. When
that's what made it difficult to write a third album, was the fact that everyone's got this, and it affected them so badly, or so well, so much.
Sure.
That they remember it now 40 years later, and they can associate with it and come out and bother to come and pay for a ticket, come out in the cold and dark to come and see us as well. I'm getting on.
Yeah.
Still disappeared.
Man, I love the fact that you've used this time.
There's just so much there that we don't want to screw up.
Sure.
So
you feel like
it's difficult writing a third album. We didn't know what to expect, or what people thought was a Vapors album in the first place.
Everybody here that's on this chat, actually, so many people have talked about getting the record. Love Girl from the Factory is one that Carol Owen is saying, man, just, she loves it. People are excited about hearing about this new EP, which is cool. They like knowing that you had some nerves pre the latest album, Fear is not brilliant. Or Fear is brilliant. Fear Not is brilliant. Sorry. Andy Barnes wants a physical release with colored vinyl for the next record. Okay, so that's these are the requests that you've had from people.
That's what we can do.
Right? Yeah. Well, money's no object, right? You can just throw millions of dollars.
We don't even know.
No, vinyl is definitely under serious consideration for the EP as a format.
That would be great. So we got vinyl and an 8-track, right? That's what we're going to do. The
8-track, the 8-track back.
We have got a fourth album's worth of material. Whether it's good enough to be on the fourth album or not, or whether we write more stuff in the next few months, or not. I don't know, but we haven't got any money to go.
Yeah.
Haven't been touring.
Third album hasn't made us any. We're not even in profit on that yet. So.
Yeah. I mean, do you feel like you're going to be able to have some sort of legs to stand on and be able to tour for that record when things clear up a little bit? I mean, you're in the UK. Even if is the UK doing any live shows at all right now?
Nothing.
Okay.
They've started to do those sort of socially distant outdoor things. I mean, they did some trial runs for indoor venues at like a 5th capacity. The underlying message really is the venues lose money when they try and do these socially distant gigs. The government's calling them a resounding success, but the venues are calling them a failure.
Plus, if it's like here, venues are being held liable for, they have to get insurance. And, if they're held liable for somebody that may, quote unquote, contract COVID from the event, then it looks bad for the bands. It's a really tough thing. How about like the streaming events? We did the Back to the Basement event where you had the coolest setting where you're set up on the stoop playing Turning Japanese. And it was the greatest thing ever, man. It looked like you guys were back in high school.
Yeah.
In my garden.
Yeah.
In your garden.
Yeah.
In my garden.
It was so great, man. And I think, what it really did, that presentation captured your personality so well. You were sitting on the step, Michael, and you had the cajon but just the closeness that you guys all had. And I think, the really cool thing is that people do feel connected to you guys. They feel like they're not fans. They truly are like sort of an extended family for the
Definitely,
Vapor.
yeah.
And
definitely.
Do you communicate with a lot of those folks on social media to maintain those relationships?
Become friends with quite a lot of people sort of through the band.
Yeah.
I think
great, it's just great, great bunch of people.
So what about streaming for you guys? Could you do something where you collect?
We're in the process of setting up a streaming gig at the moment.
Okay.
It seems like something that people seem to want us. We put it out there if we did one, who would be interested, and we've got a really good response to that. So
really, okay,
we're going to do that. So that's we are getting quite busy, which is great. I love being busy.
Sure.
So the moment we're sort of it is safe for us to be in a sort of rehearsal setting. We've been rehearsing a couple of times a week.
Really? Okay.
Trying to keep busy.
Firstly, we haven't played the third album at all live yet, so we're learning that for live as opposed to what we did in the recording. How can we replicate that or whatever? Because you always go over the top in recordings anyway. So
yeah, no, for sure. Well, some bands do.
and at the same time, this gig is going to involve all of the first album. But that will be the UK version, not the American version.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Which we didn't realise was different. We're learning songs and we're rehearsing for the live performance of them. As well as we've been playing some of the new stuff as well. That will be for fourth album if it come off.
Like this, some people were asking if I could share this on a couple of different platforms. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to ask a couple of questions that they had here as well. John Melandro said that the songs in the new record, they have such great melodies. When you were working on your non-music jobs, do you have melody and lyrics that pop in your head? Or do you ever write them down, or what's the process in coming up with those?
I usually have the melody pop into my head and then I hum that into my phone. So if I come up with a lyric, then I write that as a title.
Okay.
Generally it's the tune comes first. And if it's not strong enough, I just ignore it.
So do you have just a bank of 1,000 sort of song ideas in your phone?
I've got 900 on my phone.
Okay. And then how do you bring those to the band? You say, hey, I've got this great riff. What do you think about this?
This is the verse. This is the bridge. This is the chorus.
Okay.
We need a middle eight. Work it out. How many verses we do before the first chorus? So
you don't use the formula.
The ideas and everyone works on them. So if the idea is not going to work, it's no point in me going over. This is all finished, and you've got to play this, and you've got to play that, and you've got to play this. Doesn't work.
Dave tends to play us, a really basic idea for a song, and what tends to happen is the ones that are great just catch fire and they just take off and become songs really, really quickly. And others, the other songs take a bit longer sometimes. But
one of the ones that actually took a quite a long time for us to get was "Girl from the Factory." It's like there was something there, but it just wasn't quite, locking in. It wasn't sitting. And like when we took all these songs, we took about 24 songs to the studio to record the album of 12.
Wow. Okay.
And we were playing "Girl from the Factory" to Steve Levine, who produced the album, and it was always like a contender for it needs to be on the album, it needs to be in the 12. But it wasn't until we actually started laying parts down that it's like, should this be acoustic? And so we sort of worked on it like that.
So Steve was doing that, like the producer was doing that, saying,
well, it was sort of we sort of came to the realization that, hang on a second,
we started playing it heavily, with distorted guitars, and that didn't seem to work.
Yeah. So Steve Levine said, here's a 12-string acoustic, do that on that. Yeah.
Did it help to have an objective point of view?
Definitely.
Or were you too protective? Because sometimes, right, they're talking about your babies, right? And so they talk to you about, you should try this. And you feel like, wait a minute, no, I went in with a mind that this is what I want it to sound like.
But by the same token, if you can learn to better your parenting technique,
yes,
why wouldn't you?
Right. Yeah. No, that's a great analogy. I like that.
But at the same time, Steve Levine did kind of enhance what we had anyway.
Yeah.
So it was, you just made it. He
never threw anything away or said, this is terrible, or it was sort of, you've got this, but what about spinning it this way?
Okay.
He never took parts out. He only, made us bring more in.
That's when you see a producer like that, it seems there are some producers that really rely on their ego, right? So they feel like they need to have such a stamp on the music that they'll change something just for the sake of changing it, to have their own input. But it sounds like Steve Levine really wanted to make the music as best it could be.
He wanted them to sound as good as they possibly could.
Where did you record it?
Up in Liverpool.
In Liverpool.
In Liverpool. Nice. The Liverpudlians appreciated having you guys up there for a while, huh?
Yeah.
Now, how close to you guys are you in proximity, each other?
We all live within about 10 miles of each other, or 15 miles of each other.
Really?
At the moment. Yeah.
Okay. At the moment, Steve's like, I'm out of here as soon as we're out the phone. Now, that makes it easy.
It makes it real easy to rehearse, because we can rehearse it where Dan's at Dave's at the moment, so rehearsing, me and Michael live within 15 miles of Dave's. It's so easy to rehearse these days, which is great.
It's a direct train from Steve's front door to ours.
I was living in Hertfordshire, Harpenden, this and Albans, and
which was about an hour and a half.
2 hours to get to rehearsal. So persuaded.
More, Michael, you're right.
Yeah.
God, it's for us, right? So Mike, our singer, lives in Liverpool. Our guitarist lives in Toronto. Canada. Our bass player lives in San Diego, and I live, in Portland, Oregon. So we're at 4 different corners that we never rehearse. And I know it sounds like it, but it's so tough, even when we did the streaming event for Back to the Basement, there's just no way we could have done something other than Gord, our guitarist, made video of him playing to the track, sent it to Mike, and he put a TV on its side and played it on the TV as if he was standing right next to him, but that's about as close as we could get. And, we talk a lot about, whether or not we can try some of these new avenues for live shows. Our Gord is playing with the Spoons up in Canada, and they've been doing some drive-in concerts and that kind of thing. And they played on a barge the other day. So a barge drove down the road, the river, and people watched from the riverside. And that's a pretty good way to stay socially distant, you know, but here, you know, it just, the US, they've tried a couple of things. The things that they have tried seem to, you know, end up with a lot of COVID victims, and it just doesn't seem to be working well, you know? So I think we just need to bunker down and use our time wisely to do some productive and positive stuff.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you guys are doing that, man. I mean, the fact that you're taking the time, and instead of playing victim, right? I mean, we could sit around and be bummed that we're not on tour, but you guys have been writing new music. You've been doing other stuff to keep you busy, working on your garden, Steve.
You know,
Yeah.
he's growing lovely fresh vegetables.
Fresh vegetables. Do you bring those to rehearsal to kind of sweeten the pot?
He doesn't.
Oh, yeah. I'm always giving fresh organic veg to Michael.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
to go along with your burgers.
You know?
Yeah. Okay. So you know what? I guess it makes sense for us to talk about that, because some of the conversations I've had with people about the tour, you can put yourself in mind of what you were eating at that gig. You remember the venue because of what they had for catering, right? So tell me, I know exactly what you're thinking about for pizza. I'll bet. Am I right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Afterwards,
the Aragon Ballroom in Chicago, where they had stacks of pizza, right? By the time everybody got to it, you know, it was like 8 hours old, but good meals. Do you remember the best meal that you had on tour last year?
The ones in the casino. Oh, wow. Boston, what you remember? Steve?
Gig one, that was good. The first gig, that was good. And the casinos are mad.
Yeah. It's, you know, when
Michael's dream.
Yeah.
Right. All you can eat buffets.
Exactly.
They've got
they
have his picture on the wall saying, "This man is not allowed back here again." But when you're there and you guys are doing that, do you, especially when it's like out or near the venue, do you guys get approached by people from the shows that say, "Hey, oh my God, it's the Vapors," and come up and do the autograph thing?
Yeah, you did get that, didn't you, Steve? Yeah.
Yeah, just me. I'm the one that does it. I go up to Steve. I'm like, "Steve, will you sign my Vapor shirt?" Okay, so a couple of these folks here. This is cool. Peter Sainer again. You got a lot of fans here. He said this is great insight on how Dave's ideas are discussed with all the band. If they don't work, they come and go. This is where some bands go wrong, because the ego of the lead singer sort of forces the direction, and then the camaraderie is lost, right? So has it always been that way, that even in lineup from the past, was it a cohesive thing where you could diplomatically bring a song and have people work together, or were there ego issues that kind of were divisive?
No, I don't. I think we always worked really well as a band. Musically, particularly, we always worked really well. And there was no sort of, oh, this song has to be this, or this song has to be like that. It was we've always approached songs in the same way, which is Dave has an idea, which is a melody and some words and some chords, and he comes in and he plays that, and then we take it on, and we can make that a reggae song or a thrash metal song or a ballad, we can turn that song into anything. And that's just the way we've always done it, and we started off doing it like that, and I think we carry on doing it like that, and it works for us, I think.
It's great. You can't pigeonhole the band really with a style. It was kind of a trick question when I asked you guys how you would classify your sound. Some fans that I've talked to will say they really hear a punk influence. Like Turning Japanese. I'll ask this. Okay, this is the question that's most asked by people on the chat, and I've been an 80s fan forever, and even when I'm not touring, and when I'm watching you guys live, everybody asks, where did the song come from? Where did the idea of the song come from? What's it all about? Dave?
It is just a love song.
A love song.
Yeah.
A masturbation love song.
Girls left the bloke's sitting there on the bed crying with a photograph. That's all he's got left of his relationship, is a photograph.
Come on, man. You've got to have a dirtier story than that. It has to be. I've heard that.
Kev.
Yeah.
The thing is, this is the crazy thing, right? We had the song, we recorded the song, we performed the song. Until we came to America, we had never heard that before. We went to America and people went, "Oh, hey, I hear turning Japanese. This is a euphemism for masturbation." And we all looked at each other, and I can promise you, we all looked at each other and went, "What on earth are they talking about?" I have never, ever heard that phrase, ever. And that's the truth. We had never heard that phrase until we went to, well, no, we'd never heard the phrase until Dave wrote the song.
Okay.
And it wasn't a euphemism for anything else.
Isn't it?
I don't know where it must be just people with dirty minds, Kev.
Yeah.
Yes, leave it to the Americans, man.
I'd love to take the
I know, that's what I'm saying.
What was that, Dave?
I'd love to take the credit for it, but I can't.
Yeah, well, it would be for because that's how legends start, right? Rumors start, and it might be one of those things that people come out and because they've told that story, right, to their friends forever. They've said, "Oh, the one song about masturbation," and they they get to that point in the set, and that's what's on their mind, right? They're thinking that's really interesting that Dave and Steve would have been thinking about that when they wrote it. That's what they want to think about, or that's what they want to think, So don't ruin it for them. You got to make them. Okay,
that's
take
where
2.
Their brains want to go. That's where their brains can go.
It's whatever you want it to be about.
Take 2, Dave. What's the song about? No, I'm just kidding.
Whatever you want it to be about.
You talk about the relationship stuff. Interesting that when I think of the really successful pop songs that are about relationships are heartache, loss, right? Not a lot of, great pop songs have been written about how happy we are at this time, right? But it's about, you're my long lost love. But your stuff isn't really like that. I mean, the emotion behind the music is really driven to be productive and positive, and it's uplifting, is that something that you sort of naturally gravitate towards?
Yes, in some ways, it's so much easier to write a sad song than it is to write an happy song. It's so much easier to make people miserable,
especially now. You can have a COVID album that would be all about that, right?
Yeah. I've got something about suicide in there that people say, "Well, that's great."
Oh God, man.
I'm a bit confused at the moment because I was trying to write an album. Because we got criticised, the last album 30 odd years ago was down. Magnets was all a bit gloomy, and so you just look at the subject matter of each song, it is down. So I tried to do something that wasn't down, trying uplifting. Well, and it was fortunate that in some ways that people needed uplifting. Suddenly.
Yeah, especially now, right? I mean, really. Even the title of the album Together is such a great sort of metaphoric thing for what we need right now as a collective. I think you guys know I was probably making you too sweaty, but I was hugging on you the whole time on tour. I miss the hugs. I miss that connection. And you guys have this connection with a fan base. I mean, you guys are such warm people, so approachable. I never really, that's one thing I loved about the tour is I think all the bands were kind of like that, that they really appreciated connecting with people. I don't even like to call them fans at all. I think really people that are there that are celebrating this music, that are paying to go see these shows and traveling, have become the extended family. And
it means something to them as well.
I would, if we get outside of our own minds of not being on tour, and it affects musicians, of course, like everybody else, every musician that I talk to, we're all in the same sort of position. Mindset wise, people are in different mindsets, right? Some people really are letting this make them victims, and they just can't get out of it. And they really just sit at home and wait for things to change. And to me, I couldn't do that. The whole reason I started doing this show was to connect back with my pals again. I miss being backstage where we're hanging out and being on tour. And it was an accident. I didn't mean to do this other than Gord, our guitarist, and I were having chats on Facebook. And then I was sort of pushed into it. And now this is episode 102, right? And so I've done like 102 episodes in about 110 days. And you know what? It's done for me. It's been cathartic. It's really allowed me to reconnect with all the people. I mean, we should be on tour together. We should be hanging out and watching Michael eating burgers backstage, right? You know, and yeah, that's one of the questions that keeps showing up in the chat is like, how many pizzas did Michael eat at that show? And you know, buddy, it's a good thing that your metabolism is so solid, because if you were like Mr. Creosote, like me, you know, everybody would be like, they'd be like, don't let him have a pizza. That just wouldn't be. But you know, you need a food sponsor. When we go back on tour, you need to get endorsements, right? So, you know,
giving him ideas now.
Yeah. Like, are you a good cook, Michael?
Not great, but you know, learning.
Me too. I'm a fantastic eater. I'm a pro eater for sure. I'm I guess an amateur league compared to Michael, but I really love to eat, and you know, at one point I really enjoyed the drink as well, you know, which is a good thing that I'm not. But you guys have your cocktails there, right? I saw some beers there and some Steins. I've got my tea. You know, it's 10 o'clock at night where these guys are at right now. So I appreciate them hanging out and staying up late doing this. But if we were on tour right now, you know, it'd probably be Central
meet and greet
states, probably down to Texas. Yeah, we'd be at Texas meet and greet right now, right? So we'd be hanging out with people, and Michael would be, you know, like scrounging through the backstage catering area looking for the cheesecake to bring home. But yeah, you know, what a legacy you've left, buddy. Isn't this funny? Yeah. Hey, you know, Jen Adolph was asking, she really wants to hear Girl done acoustic. You guys have any plans to do any acoustic stuff at all?
It's sort of acoustic already.
Everything's kind of acoustic right now, right?
Yeah.
What was that, buddy?
You mean without Steve and Michael? You don't want to hear them?
I want to hear Michael on a cajon again. I think he looks just happy with it, you know? Yeah. No, it doesn't matter whether he's on a big drum set or he's on a tiny percussion instrument. You know, he's playing like he's on a stadium, you know, in this. An acoustic bass, Steve. Yeah. Do you have one?
Yeah. No, but I like the idea of one of not a stand-up one, but like the acoustic guitar.
Yeah. No, not great big double bass.
Right. No, okay. So 5-Star Guitars, if you're watching, 5-Star Guitars in Beaverton, Oregon, if you're watching right now as my sponsor, I want you to hook up Steve Smith with an acoustic bass. He'll give you the address after the show. We need sponsorship, or talk to your distributors. How left-handed? That's right. Yeah. Well, no, don't be greedy. Come on, man. Learn how to play right-handed. If they're giving you a guitar,
down. If it works for Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah. Right. Well, you know, dude, don't be putting yourself in that realm. You know, if it gets to be the point where overseas, like in the UK, you guys, they sort of have a control over the pandemic, and you can do sort of regional shows. Would you start to kind of sneak out together and in those kinds of environments and really try to at least leak the album to the masses without, you know, the streaming services, but actually bring them this record? Steve, hold it up again. Look at this cover. This is really, I love the artwork on this. Right behind you, up against the window.
Behind you, mate.
There it is.
I like it. He's wearing Steve's wearing a Trojan shirt. I'm wearing the VAPORS shirt. What's that all about, man? This is yeah. Look at that record. That's good stuff.
You know, work by the wonderful Mandy Cox.
I love it. That is so great. And that album is available on the vaporsuk.com site, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
CD.
Cool. You got
vinyl. Download.
And 8-track. No,
8-track.
And you've still got, so streaming wise, you've got it in all the Spotify and iTunes.
iTunes, Apple Music, Deezer.
All of them, yeah.
If anyone even uses that.
You know, so let's do this. All right. I'm going to make my recommendation. I was going to say, because you're on the show today, go to the vaporsuk.com site, purchase the vinyl, because record store, International Record Store Day is this week. So get the record. And while you're waiting for it to show up, then go out and check it out on the streaming services so you know what you're waiting for. If you don't already have the album, I would bet that you could probably convince one of these guys to sign the record for you if they're sending from their distributor. But it depends on you know, what history they have with you. Let me ask. There are a couple other questions here that are in the chat that let's see, wouldn't say Magnets was gloomy. They said less poppy, but more mature. Oh, yeah. This is maturity is an interesting sort of observation, right? Because here's my interpretation of what she's saying about that. Dave probably has had some life experience that had a few speed bumps along the way. Am I right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I mean, we've all had that as adults, one would hope, but do you feel like that sort of dictated, sort of, it wasn't that the industry was, looking for gloomy music and Coldplay and Radiohead, that kind of vibe, but you, do you feel like maybe some life experience sort of dictated, kind of a more morose, mature perspective?
Yeah, you're talking about Magnets.
Yeah.
No, I just meant, I don't know.
I'm not digging for your heartache, but if you want to talk about it, we can.
How I felt at the time, it just, nothing really changed between the first and the second album, and nothing has changed between the first album and now, really.
Yeah.
From the first album is still as relevant now as they were then. We are still in the Cold War situation with Russia.
It must have been.
Nothing's changed. Really.
Nothing's changed. It's really funny, man, that by the time you guys do Turning Japanese live, that there's not one person that's sitting in chairs. Any place that we play that has chairs, everybody's up on their feet for that one. When you guys are doing it, I'm sure that 40 years later, it doesn't feel mundane or tired, does it, to be playing that song in front of those people?
No, it's brilliant. Absolutely fantastic.
If you
see people's
reaction
like that.
Yeah, I mean, not getting bored with playing it. It's enjoyable.
Is the first? I think it was the first time that you'd sang it live in about 35 years. Or something, was at my secondary school. We had this sort of week of fun, they called it, where the prefects would organise all sorts of events, and but the deputy head of school asked me if I could get him to come in and do the song with me and my band.
Really?
And, even then nobody was sat down.
Oh yeah.
It was mostly the teachers who would sort of run to the front and started jumping up and down.
That is so cool. How awesome was that for you, man? That made you feel rock star, right? The dad
was great. All my mates in the front row. It's fantastic.
And all the girls that thought, wow, I need to know this, right? Like this kid.
17-year-old me was
man. Yeah. Like that doesn't hurt. Do you guys just, as FatherSon perform, separately from the Vapors? You guys do some stuff on your own?
We've only really done sort of the occasional sort of thing for Facebook or at Port Merion. We had this sort of convention type thing up in North Wales last year, and on the first night we did do a couple of songs, just us two acoustically, but we don't really do. I don't want to leave these guys out.
Oh no, of course. As a father with musical kids, for me it's a magical thing to see your kid playing drums or singing. It really is a prideful thing. It's got to be really cool to have them in the band now, right? Like that, like both of you, and you looking at your dad, Dan, just thinking, my dad's out there. He's an international superstar, writing big hits, and look how happy the music that my dad wrote makes these people, right? I mean, that's the thing is, I'm a huge fan of legacy, right? And so if you think, if you look at what your contribution is to the world, no matter what sort of industry you're in, but if you can make your environment better than the way you arrived, right, that's a great way to kind of leave this planet. I think
you make one person smile, like
great
job. And first and foremost, I'm always been a fan of the Vapors, so it's sort of like threefold dream come true kind of thing, band sure. I love, with my dad playing in it, like it's fantastic.
Pinch me moments, man, for sure.
Absolutely love it.
It's
Yeah.
great. You don't take it for granted. You know, I mean, some people in the industry might, you know, but I don't think any of you guys take your experience in the band for granted. When I watch you on tour, there's just nonstop sort of embracing every moment. So when you get to towns on Lost 80s Live Tour, did you guys get a chance to go and explore a little bit and check out the cities as you got in?
Yeah,
It depends whether we had a day off or not, really.
Yeah.
When we went to Chicago, we went to the Blues, the Chester
House of Blues.
place. Yeah, we went there, which was amazing. But you know how it is. I mean, we were driving a lot last year, doing a lot of drives. So even if we had like 3 days off, the chances were we were doing like 6 or 7 hours driving each day.
Yeah.
Because we did very little flying. So we tried to experience as much as we could. Michael Giblin, who was driving us, playing guitar as well, he was a real font of knowledge about American history, geography.
Nice.
Yeah, he's a real smart guy, and I learned a lot about America from him. And he would always be going, "Oh, we could go here and check this out," and we would be like,
en route.
"Okay, let's do it."
You know what? If I was him, just to prank you guys, I'd make up every story about every city. So this is actually where the spaceship landed. And so most of the aliens that we collected, they're down underneath the ground. We could go out in the desert and check out this part and just tease you, you know, and just and Steve's like, yeah, he was brilliant. He knew so much about this area. Oh, this architecture. Yeah. So the Spaniards came in there and they crafted this mountain. Yeah, no.
We went to the Alamo as well.
Oh, you did? Yeah, San Antonio. Man.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what I remember about that day. Number one, I'm depressed that I didn't go to the Alamo because I've never been. Do you remember how hot that gig was in the Sunken Gardens? Unbelievable,
that
man.
Was the tin roof, wasn't it? That was the tin roof on the shed.
No, that one was one where we were outside. We were exposed. Because remember, and like that's where Michael first got his Whataburgers. He was pounding down the Whataburgers at Soundcheck there. See, those are my memories that stick, is how many burgers Michael had in the middle of the day. But it was so hot, and we were exposed on that concrete pad out with that Sunken Gardens Theater. The tin roof thing was Corpus Christi, Texas, down farther south. But and that one had like all the crazy barbecue backstage. Remember that? So see. Those are my memories, man. How about any cities that really stood out to you, Dave?
San Antonio, because that underground river and another world.
Really, yeah.
Love that. It's very hot.
You know,
even underground, it was hot.
Had you done a lot of international travel before?
Been around. Obviously, we went to America a few times with the Vapors. But, no, I've not travelled an awful lot. Been to Australia a couple of times, Europe.
And you guys have gone number one in Australia, right?
Yeah.
So what was the fan base like there compared to, say, America?
Lots of girls.
That's not the sad thing. So that's what Japanese was written about. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So, and you were young enough that, you were entertaining the idea of being a rock star with a lot of adoring fans.
Well,
and
it's really different now. I'm in my 60s. I don't get any girls chasing me anymore.
Oh, well, not
your wife is watching this.
Yeah. I was going to say, not that we can talk about for sure, but yeah, it was just me. It was my sweaty hugs that you had to worry about after the show, you know? Yeah. You know, how about the bands that we toured with last year too? I mean, did you have any bands that you really felt like, I think we all...
My memory's going, that's right. There's some really great ones in Los Angeles we played with.
The Tubes was
Australia.
one.
I mean, Australia we played with.
Yeah, I really like the Escape Club.
Great guys. And you guys really did. They were like brothers. When I would watch you guys and them, it was almost like the extension of one big band just split apart on stage for those sets, you know? I personality wise, especially, you know, I think you guys really were very, very linked in that. I could see you guys touring together really successfully, just the two bands, you know?
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
They're not far from you, right? One of them's down Bognor or like Brighton area.
Yeah.
But
I've seen Johnny a couple of times since last year.
Johnny Christo, man, don't you just love him? He's such a good dude. You know, I had a great conversation last night. I was just chatting with Mick Conroy from Modern English, and the rest of the Modern English guys are right there in your hood. They're rehearsing in a barn for another album right now. So they too are kind of working on the next sort of iteration of COVID albums. But
it's all you can do really at this stage. Yeah, no gigs. What else is an artist to do?
Yeah, well, it's funny because here in the U.S., politicians will say, you know what, artists, creative types, just learn a new craft. And I'm thinking, what? So all of a sudden I'm going to become like a neurosurgeon, and like it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And I don't know how. And
I'll have a go.
You have a goat?
Yeah, no, I said being a neurosurgeon.
Yeah, you give it a try. It's hard to.
Yeah, I'll have a go.
You're pretty much willing to do anything, aren't you, Steve? I love that.
Yeah, bring it
just
on.
Keep his beer full and he'll do whatever you want, man. This is awesome. Oh, you know what? Dave Sterry, man, he's on here from real life. This is great. He said, great bangers and mash on the Riverwalk by the Alamo. So that who would have thought that the best bangers and mash would be in San Antonio, Texas, right?
The Riverwalk was cool, though. The Riverwalk was cool.
Yeah. I'm glad to see him here too, because Dave Sterry, as an Australian, he's one of those guys that, of course, Send Me an Angel, everybody knows that song. Internationally, it was such a great, huge hit. But when you see it live, then people realize that dude is a wicked guitarist. He's, he's a brilliant guitarist, and he's still got the same range in his voice, which is unheard of these days. And he's also the kindest person I may have ever met besides you guys. Right. So
great.
That's so worth celebrating, to see that the people that really don't take this for granted, they embrace the opportunities we have, getting to go out for Lost 80s Live and doing whatever, Greg Ross is doing with Abducted by the 80s, trying to make sure that we can all get some kind of opportunity to connect with our families, our people, our group. I think it's important for us to maintain those relationships,
Definitely.
Did you, early in the days when you were touring, did you have bands that you toured with that you felt like you really resonated with? Yeah,
definitely. We played with the Jam a lot, and I really loved the Jam. But also we tended to have a relationship with all the bands that played with us on tour. To be honest, I got quite close to the guys in the Chords who played with us on tour, and White Heat toured with us, which was a band from Newcastle. And we tended to get friendly with all the support bands, really. Okay. It's the only way to go, isn't it? You've got to have fun.
Oh my gosh.
With everybody.
It's funny how different demographics, different band genres have a different experience. One thing about our tours was that nothing was ever competitive. There was no cattiness, between band members or anything like that. We're sharing a lot of, backstage areas and that kind of thing. And you could really see where people's true personalities are, right? You could see authentic personalities. I've been around like hard rock bands, right, where they're just not interested in sharing backspace, and there's really some kind of like edge where they've got a wall up. And I think the things that I miss so much about being on tour was that it was like a family reunion. Every time we'd show up back in town, even if, because you guys did a lot of driving, we did a lot of driving too. A lot of the bands flew. People joked, but with the Flock of Seagulls, they joke all the time that, wow, why is it that a Flock of Seagulls are the only bands why is it that the Seagulls are the only ones that don't fly, right? But Mike just doesn't want to fly, and so we'll drive and drive and drive. But I think when you do that, you get pretty connected to your band, both good and bad, right? You're around somebody 24 hours a day, and you're tired and maybe not eating well, other than Michael, and not getting a lot of sleep. Does it ever get time where you guys say, okay, I need space I need to isolate. I need some space on the road.
We never got to that point, did we?
Never did.
No, I never got to that point at all.
No.
We got tired towards the end. Everyone got tired, but
Yeah.
there was never anyone thinking they needed their own space. It was actually a really joyful experience.
Yeah, we just kept getting together all the time, even to watch a film or whatever. You know what I mean? We still kept it together.
God, what a, you know, that to me represents like bands from the late, you know, in their late teens and early 20s, when you're out like fighting for international stardom and you're out there just being Three Musketeers, Four Musketeers. You guys kind of did that, you know, when you're on tour. You were embracing the cities, you were embracing the opportunities that you had on stage. We had some great stages, man, really cool venues, you know, and I realized, you know, we had this lost opportunity here because so many artists that we toured with are in this chat right now. So Johnny Christo's here. He says, hi guys. And I thought,
hey, Johnny.
we could just be talking smack about these guys, you know, but they're all wonderful humans, you know, so it's nice that they're all being part of this. But one, you know, who was this that just said she wanted to sell? Oh no, it's Pat Engstrom says, or Pat Engstrom says, Dave, if you really want to make money, we need to be selling your striped shirt on your website. It'd be hard to trademark that look, but that is your thing though, right? Every night, man. That's even do you have that tattooed underneath? So when you take off your shirt, your body is also
not a shirt.
Oh,
it's just tattoo.
I love it. That yeah, man. And mannequins. He's got mannequin stick in the closet, and they've all got the same shirt, right? So I hope you have several, because when we tour, man, those hot venues, they get a little gamey.
Yeah.
Washing
I hope
clothes.
it's not the same one every night.
Yeah, no kidding. This is really fun. There are a lot of people that are staying up super late right now. Peter Evans says, hey, thanks for staying up until 10 for this, you guys. Hey, think he's heard of the VAPORS pre-prep. What is the VAPORS pre-prep? Do you guys have a preparation
We don't even know
ritual?
We don't even know what that is.
Okay, so how do you guys ramp up for a gig? Do you guys have a little collective time where you get together and powwow? Or
yeah, we chuck everyone out of the changing room and just the four.
About 10 minutes before we go on.
Okay, just to kind of clear your head.
Sometimes it's fisty, you know,
yeah, so some nights we just sort of sat on the sofas or whatever, you know, have a couple of drinks or whatever. Other nights it's, you know, Michael tapping away on the sofa and, you know, we're all playing along kind of thing, hoping that our wireless systems are switched off.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, but
yeah, it's just sort of about 10 minutes before a show, just wind down and warm up at the same time.
Sometimes it's a group hug. Sometimes it's high fives. Sometimes it's just like, just do it.
Truly are representing, you know, the band collective thing is so cool, man. You know, those kind of rituals are important. You know, when you sometimes we'd roll into town, you know, and just be able to roll on stage. And I think if we didn't have that same collective time where you can all just regroup as just a unit, then your mindset's not really there for when you get on stage, right? You're so disconnected. But you know, I think a lot about the way you guys perform because you're so interactive with the audience. You know, there's a lot of energy that comes between you guys and the audience, and it feeds back to you. When we get into the streaming environments, right, it's going to be kind of different. Even if you do drive-in shows, I was trying to think about how do you know, do people honk when you play well, you know, or but
if you got the boat.
But or you know, even the streaming thing. If you watch sports, right, and you see all these sports events where they pipe in audience noise to make it seem like it's a live event.
Maybe we ought to sample a crowd of 100,000 or something.
Yeah, that's right. If you were to pick your own lineup, and you know, don't make a flock of seagulls part of this thing. I was just going to say, if you get to pick your tour, pandemic is over, you guys are going to go out for a 30-day tour. We're going to go out and promote the Tour Together record. Pick a couple bands that you think would really work well with you guys on the road.
The Killers.
What was that one?
The Killers.
The Killers. Oh yeah. You know what, man? I think that's a great pairing.
Dream big.
I mean, why wouldn't that work? I think that'd be great, man. I mean, it's like really stylistically, it's a really good pairing, I think. So
I think
you do dream big.
They've inspired me.
I hear it. I do. I think that's a great combo. All right. So, yeah, give me one more band.
Oh, no.
How about you, Steve?
Foo Fighters. Let's play with them.
That would be, yeah. So you got Foo Fighters, Killers, and the Vapors. You know what? If Dave Grohl's watching this, you know he's the kind of guy that would love to have Vapors on tour with him. You know he would. So he plays
it in his covers band. He plays Turning Japanese in his covers band.
Does he really?
Heavy metal, yeah.
Okay, so
find it on.
You're gonna have
find him. You can find Dave Grohl playing Turning Japanese.
That's did you reach out to him and say, hey man, you know what? We didn't give you permission to do that, but we will if you take us on tour with you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no.
Exactly.
Michael's gone.
Oh, Michael, he's like, oh, I know he's finished his quota. He's probably going to make a hamburger, I'll bet.
Yeah.
So Andy Barnes is asking what your guys' feelings are about riding high in the heritage charts, and what were your views on the state of the normal charts now?
I don't really know much about the regular charts now, to be honest. I don't really know what to say about the normal charts now. I have no idea who's riding high. Who is he at the moment? Really?
Do you have like any promoters or anybody working to get together out there, at least sort of marketed towards those channels?
Yeah, we have a distribution company that has a supposed promotional arm that is supposedly trying to get radio play and things, but we're getting a little bit of regional radio play, but getting national radio is proving to be a little bit difficult.
I think that's a global thing, right? You know, I mean, unless you've got millions and millions of dollars that you can I know that payola supposedly no longer exists, but I think you and I both know that there's something out there that money talks. But, you know, the fact that you can't be out there touring it, the touring would certainly help promote the record. I think having your website presence is great, where you've got the merchandise there and you're really active about maintaining your news and updates. I see that you're on your blog quite a bit talking about what's going on with the band. I think I'm going to, you know what? Michael's back. Check it out. I'm going to let him in.
He's got his burger.
He's got his burger. Welcome back, Michael. Welcome back, Michael Bose. How you doing, buddy? So you got your lunch prepared and you're set to go for round two?
Turned into an angel.
I don't know that he can hear us. Can you hear us, Michael?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. He said you've turned into an angel. You've got a glowing halo, which is, I love, like, so talking about the backdrops too, Dave, tell me about that calendar that's right above you guys' shoulders there. It's beautiful.
Oh, it's rubbish. It ran out 8 years ago.
It's the Mayan calendar ended in 2012. I thought that would be the end of the world. So I haven't read any more than that.
In fairness to them, they were only 8 years off.
That's well, if it's if they had known about the pandemic and all the other stuff going on in the world right now, they probably would have made that calendar a lot less elegant and pretty than just again, Peter Evans is asking, Steve, who's your favorite bass player?
Probably Paul.
Who's that?
You better say
probably Paul McCartney.
I've actually got Paul's stepsister on my show this time next week, actually. So Ruth McCartney and
McCartney is just an incredible bass player. He's got everything. He's got the rhythm. He's got the melody. He's got the lot. Really, an amazing bass player.
Yeah, I
like John Entwistle as well. John Entwistle is also an incredible bass player, and Bruce from the Jam is great too.
Jack Bruce.
That'd be my big three, I
Bruce from the
suppose:
Jam.
McCartney, Entwistle, and Bruce.
Nice, man. Yeah, well, you didn't sell anything short there. How about influences for you, Dave?
Oh, it's been slow. I mean, in the 60s, I was influenced very much by the Kinks, Beatles, Stones, Small Faces.
So a lot of the British bands that were really like,
and then that developed into a loving of Leonard Cohen and David Bowie and all sorts of individuals that took it and ran with it. I mean, since then, Devo, because I like off the wall. I don't like things that are 12-bar blues. I've heard enough of them.
yeah,
bored. So it's got to be something new and fresh before I like it. I thought the Killers were.
the Killers. Yeah.
They're not quite as good as they were a few years ago. But
Well, that happens, right?
give them a bit more time. See what happens. Devo.
Devo. Yeah.
One of the most amazing live shows I've ever been to.
Were you Oingo Boingo fans?
Don't know an awful lot about them.
Okay.
They went on the tour last year. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, just stylistically, I could see you guys doing really well together too. I mean, Weird Science was their big hit, but they had a couple of other American hits, that were just huge, and again, like sort of a cult following. And I wasn't as familiar with their stuff until the last few years, digging into back catalog. But they had really cool funk influence, but they're real high energy. It was all fun. And so I'm thinking about influences. So Dan, you from a younger generation, do you kind of bring what are your influences besides your dad, besides the Vapors? Who are you really into?
So if you ask me that question again tomorrow, I'll give you a completely different answer to today.
Sure.
It really varies. I mean, the first sort of bands that I ever really fell in love with were, your classic rock. The first proper band I ever went to go and see was AC/DC.
Oh, wow.
One of the first record I bought was Iron Maiden's Number of the Beast. That was the route that I started down, the hard rock sort of route. But while a lot of my mates sort of went further down the metal rabbit hole, I found myself more leaning into the likes of like Bowie and Rolling Stones and that sort of stuff. So it's really difficult to say, if someone asks what you're listening to today, it's, Blackstone Cherry. Tomorrow it might be, I don't know, Busted.
But still kept kind of a heavier edge. That's something that.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose I've always had more of that sort of hard hitting blues edge.
Sure.
I like that, Aerosmith sort of vibe.
Nice.
It's where
cool.
I started, and
Yeah, no, I wondered if you had maybe a real modern sort of influence, and I mean, it's not like they're brand new band, but you mentioned Killers, and from that same sort of era, from right around the corner from you guys, I'm a huge Muse fan. I think as a guitarist, I figured that may.
I absolutely love Muse. Matt Bellamy's a phenomenal guitar player, and
pretty ridiculous.
What a set of lungs he's got on him.
Right. Yeah.
I saw them a few years back in. They did like a hometown warm up show, Exeter Student Union, like 800, 900 capacity venue.
Wow.
Like at their peak.
Yeah.
That. So that was phenomenal.
That'd be a lot of fun to see.
Yeah, they're really good. But like I said, ask me again tomorrow, and I probably would have said, Muse or Queens of the Stone Age. Or,
you bet.
It varies day to day.
Michael Bowes, man, I left you for last because it's not least. As a drummer, man, I got to know. So your influences, who are your favorite drummers?
Well, honest truth, I did start off major time just into reggae, roots reggae.
Sure.
So Bob Marley, Carlton, Barrett.
Aston got him.
Yeah, definitely the main influence from the reggae. But I must admit, the first band I ever went to see was a band called Hawkwind. So.
Oh really? Oh my gosh! Wow.
It was completely different to all genres that I grew up with and doing, And then I just got very heavily into James Brown. So,
okay.
But otherwise, yeah, it same as Dan. It does change day by day. But I was very much into David Bowie, and one of my main growing up influences was Phil Collins. So
Wow,
I was in that sort of Genesis-y type thing when I moved away from the reggae and I'm still back and forth. I still do my roots reggae, and
Oh man, I love the well-rounded elements. Do you have a favorite Vapor song you like to play?
From new or old?
Doesn't matter. You're on stage, and all right. So say irregardless of what you guys played, you got one song left in the set list, and it's an obscure song, it's a hit song, but your favorite song that you just cannot live without when you play on stage, and you can do a hit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's a new one. Girl from the Factory. We haven't done it much yet, but yeah.
Cool. So many people have talked about that song in the thread here too. You've got a lot of fans of the new music, which is really, really cool to see. I have to say this, you guys. So many people talk about your personality, both on and off stage too, and I'm glad that other people can see what true joy you guys have in performing, and I think a celebration of life. We so need that right now. That's what this is all about, man. And the conversations that I was hoping to have with you guys are exactly how this ended up. I'm grateful that you were able to take time late at night to do this. I mean, I know for rock and rollers, 10:30 at night is not too late, but in the pandemic, man, people's lives are all upside down. I'm hoping if you guys are out there and you don't yet have the Together album, go to the vaporsuk.com site. If you buy it directly from there, they're going to get more than they will from other places. Okay. So buy it on vinyl, then check out the streaming stuff so you know it's to come. If you would not mind, here on the YouTube channel, please subscribe to the All Access Live channel. I've got great guests coming up. I've got a lot in the archives from artists that we talked about tonight, like Real Life and Cutting Crew and Wang Chung and Flock of Seagulls and all New Shoes, all sorts of bands. But forthcoming, what I'd love to do is I'll be archiving the show on my site. I'll be putting links to the vapors.com UK site. But as far as other ways to connect with the Vapors, do you guys have any recommendations? Do you want people to hit you on social media channels?
You can always reach us via the fan group. Always. There's a fan group on.
So Facebook, there's a Vapors fan club. Is it private only? Do you have to answer some obscure?
No, you can join.
Okay.
You can join. But then you can ask us anything. I mean, I monitor it all the time. I'm one of the admins, and if you ask us a question, I make sure that it gets answered.
Right on. That's cool. And it's nice that, people can reach out and actually talk to the real artists, so these guys are on the social media channels. So if you got questions, hit them up there. If you're watching this on the Abducted by the 80s Facebook group right now, you can go to www.abductedbythe80s.com and you can still get Vapors merchandise there. So we did the Back to the Basement event that had shirts that put money to the frontline workers for the COVID relief. But the Vapors also have merchandise there. So you can get merchandise there at Abducted by the 80s. You can get it at thevapors.com. Is it vapors.com? VaporsUK.com, or is it .co.uk or I'll tell you, I'm going to have it in the link, but search the Vapors UK and you'll definitely get there. So it's 11:30 where this person's watching. Rita Simon, thank you for staying up late, Rita. Pete Sainer said you've got 3 new fans, his 3 grandchildren singing the new album all the time, ages 4, 5, and 8. So here's the cool thing about this, and I'll wrap on this. You really did this, right? Not just with the new record, but there's a beautiful thing happening right now where 3 generations of fans or friends of the band are happening, right? Because the people that discovered the music back in the early 80s have kids of their own. Some of them have grandkids of their own. And because the music is so spirited and it means so much to them, they're passing it on. And we saw that when we were at some of those Lost 80s shows last year where they're all ages. You know, you'd see kids, kids and parents and grandkids out there. And the fact that you're putting new music out there is really, really cool. It's a generous thing because people need your positivity and your art and your creativity right now. So I am grateful that you spent the time to catch me up a little bit on the goings on. I love seeing that you guys are all healthy and happy and willing to be within 10 miles of each other, you know? Any other plugs that you want to give out here?
No, we're not plugging kind of people, really.
Yeah, you know what? Well, okay. And any shout outs to somebody that's been super supportive of you guys along the way?
Well, a big shout out to everybody that supported us and that's in the fan group and has stuck with us all the way and is buying T-shirts and saying they're gonna, you know, just supporting us in all sorts of ways.
That's
fab.
And
and
still being here, you know, for this album. Thanks to everyone who's picked it up, listened to it, streamed it, anything. Yeah. Cheers.
And definitely our manager, Sean.
Oh, yeah.
Sean. Big Sean, is that what you called him?
Big up, Sean.
Big up, Sean, right? So if you go to those sites, you're going to find this shirt right there, and maybe you know, throw an extra couple of quid in there, and the guys will sign that for you too. So hit the Vapors UK site up, or abductedbythe80s.com site. Again, thanks to 5 Star Guitars and for Audix Microphones being supportive of us. Vapors, guys, man, thank you so much for being here. I love seeing you now. Let's get rid of this pandemic so we can go out tour again. What do you say?
Sooner the better.
That sounds great, man. Thank you guys so much. And all of you guys in the chat, this is crazy that you guys have been so Vapors guys, when you get a chance, take a look through the recap on this. If you have any doubt at all that you've got fans, people are blowing up this chat way faster than I can read it, which is really cool. I'm glad to see that. Folks that are watching this on YouTube, subscribe to this channel, and that I'll get links to the archive of this. So you got all the pimping that you need from me about the Vapors. So have a wonderful week, everybody. Thanks for being here, and I will talk to you soon. Be good humans. Peace, guys.
Cheers, Kevin.